The year was 1839. A group, no less than 53, of native Africans, torn brutally from their beloved homeland of Sierra Leone, were the victims of ruthless Portuguese slave traders. These merchants of human misery had ambushed their peaceful villages, destroyed their homes, and separated families, driven by the insatiable hunger for profit. These unfortunate souls were crammed mercilessly into the suffocating bowels of a looming, ominous ship christened the Tecora. On board, the conditions were beyond inhuman. The hold was dark, damp, and riddled with disease. It was a claustrophobic hellhole, the air thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and fear. They were forced to endure a harrowing, seemingly unending journey across the vast and merciless Atlantic, a torment amplified by the unbearable conditions on board. Chains chafed against raw skin, the sound of their metal clinking drowned by the constant moans of pain and despair. The meager rations, barely enough to sustain life, were the only respite from their relentless suffering. Their spirits crushed under the weight of their predicament, their dignity violated in ways unimaginable. They sailed towards an unknown future, a life of unending toil and hardship. Their destination? The vast sugar plantations of Cuba. These were sprawling fields of green, deceptively beautiful for the backbreaking labor they demanded. Under the scorching sun, these plantations transformed into labor camps, where the slaves were made to toil from dawn to dusk, their sweat and blood seeping into the very soil they tilled, sweetening the sugar that filled the coffers of their masters. Deep within the vibrant landscape of Cuba, an unfortunate turn of fate lay in wait for the innocent Africans, violently torn away from the security of their homes and thrust into a terrifying world of anguish and terror. With a sinister twist of manipulation, a phony classification process was devised, a scheme designed with malicious intent to sidestep laws and protocols aimed at forbidding the savage transatlantic trade of slaves. Through this cunning trickery, these Africans were falsely classified as Cuban slaves. This malevolent categorization, executed with the crafty and conniving tactics of those who yearned to exploit them, effectively swept away their pasts, their individualities, and their fundamental human rights. Devised with the icy precision of the soulless traders who dealt in human lives as mere commodities, this nefarious process left an enduring dark imprint on these Africans' lives, drastically redefining their existence. Witnessing this vile process unfold were two wealthy Spanish aristocrats, José Ruiz and Pedro Montes. Renowned across the nation for their enormous wealth and unchecked influence, both men were owners of expansive sugar plantations in Cuba. To them, these captured Africans presented a chance to augment their labor force, enhance their productivity, and consequently, increase their profits. A cold, calculated business decision that stripped these Africans of their dignity, relegating them to mere commodities. As the exchange of money took place, the fate of these Africans was irrevocably sealed. The subsequent step for Ruiz and Montes was the transportation of their newly purchased property. Cruelly, the Africans were herded onto the schooner Amistad. This ship, initially meant for the transportation of goods and chattel, was soon to become a symbol of human defiance, resilience, and an insatiable desire for freedom. Upon completion of the monetary transaction, Ruiz and Montes moved to organize the transportation of their newly acquired property. In a painfully heart-wrenching operation, the seized Africans were forced onto the schooner Amistad. This vessel, originally engineered for the transportation of goods and chattel, was about to transform into a beacon of hope, representing human strength, determination, and an unwavering pursuit of freedom. As the Amistad sliced through the ocean waves, setting sail on its destined path, the passengers on board were oblivious to the exceptional chain of events that were about to transpire. Little did Ruiz, Monte, or even the Africans themselves realize that their journey on the Amistad would morph from an ordinary shipping expedition into a momentous event in the struggle against the horrifying institution of slavery. This voyage would symbolize the Africans' indomitable spirit in resistance against their captors and their victorious struggle for freedom. Their heroic fight would reverberate through history, serving as a beacon of hope, strength, and inspiration for successive generations. Born in the early 19th century, Sengbe Pie, also known as Joseph Cinque, was a Mende man from the Mani region of Sierra Leone. He was not just a farmer, but a rice cultivator, a trade that was deeply rooted in the culture of his homeland. With the sweat of his brow, he toiled the land, sowed the paddy, and reaped the rice. Beyond farming, he was also an active participant in the local economy, trading goods with neighboring communities, which was an essential practice amongst the Mende people. His existence was deeply entwined with the rhythm of nature and the vibrancy of his homeland. Despite this peaceful and hardworking life, the brutality of slavery found him. He was captured and sold into slavery, a terrible fate that threatened to erase his identity and suppress his resilient spirit. However, the essence of Cinque was an indomitable spirit, a flame that refused to be extinguished. The turning point of his life came on a ship named Amistad, 3 days into the transatlantic journey to the Americas. A fellow captive managed to free himself and Cinque. Armed with nothing but sugarcane knives, the slaves, led by Cinque, rose against their captors in a desperate bid for freedom. The revolt was a bloody confrontation, featuring a desperate struggle between the captives and their captors, a fight for life and freedom that marked the ship with the indelible stain of defiance. Cinque's leadership and the success of the revolt forever etched his name into the annals of history, transforming him from a simple farmer into a symbol of resistance and a beacon of hope for those struggling against the chains of slavery. In an act of audacious rebellion, the captives, armed with sugarcane knives they had found on board, seized control of the Amistad. Fueled by a fervent longing for home and a desire to escape the chains of servitude, they sternly commanded Ruiz and Montes, their captors, to steer the ship back towards the vast expanse of Africa. They dreamed of the familiar landscapes, their families, their freedom, and the life they had been ruthlessly ripped away from. However, their Spanish captors, Ruiz and Montes, were not men of honor, but individuals shrouded in deceit. They would, with astuteness and trickery, play a duplicitous game. In the full glare of the sun, they adhered to the captives' command, setting the ship's course eastward towards the African coast. It seemed as though they were abiding by the captives' demands, creating a false sense of security among the enslaved. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness snaked across the sky, they would covertly veer off course, steering the ship to the north. This cunning act of misdirection was a dangerous game, a high-stakes subterfuge that set the ship on an unpredictable zigzag journey across the vast expanse of the ocean, a deadly maritime game of cat and mouse. This journey, fraught with betrayal and cunning deceit, saw the ship traverse unfamiliar waters and weather harsh storms. Finally, the Amistad, much to the captives' horror and despair, ended up not on the familiar shores of Africa, but on the alien and unknown coast of the United States. Their dreams of freedom replaced with a reality of uncertainty and potential enslavement in a foreign. The United States brig Washington intercepted the Amistad near Long Island, New York, marking the beginning of a significant and controversial incident. The African captives on board were immediately detained, facing grave accusations of rebellion and homicide. This turn of events had far-reaching implications, causing ripple effects that were felt across the entire United States. The incident was not just a simple legal matter, it incited nationwide debates and engendered heated discussions, escalating to a fever pitch of public discourse. Each side of the debate was clearly delineated, resulting divide among the citizens. The abolitionists, fervent advocates for the eradication of slavery, found themselves particularly drawn to this case. Considering it as a pivotal opportunity, they aimed to challenge and potentially dismantle the deeply entrenched institution of slavery. The case of the Amistad captives was not only a fight for the freedom of few Africans, it was an ideological battlefront where abolitionists and anti-abolitionists clashed. The unparalleled attention garnered by this case, along with the subsequent discussions and debates, illuminated the contentious issue of slavery in America, urging citizens to confront and reconsider their beliefs about this repugnant institution. The case went to the Supreme Court, where former President John Quincy Adams, despite his advanced age, argued passionately on behalf of the Africans. His eloquent defense centered on the principle that all people have a right to freedom and the Africans acted in self-defense. In March of 1841, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Africans, declaring them free individuals who were kidnapped and transported illegally. They were not slaves, but free men and women who had the right to fight for their freedom. The Amistad Revolt was more than just a mutiny on a ship. It was a proclamation of freedom, a stand against oppression. It highlighted the brutality of the transatlantic slave trade and the lengths to which enslaved people would go to secure their freedom. It was a testament to the human spirit, the burning desire for freedom that can't be extinguished. The Amistad Revolt is a beacon of hope, a symbol of resistance, and a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. It is a story that reminds us of the power of perseverance and the undying quest for freedom. It is a story that needs to be remembered, to be retold, to be revered, for in the echoes of Zinc's impassioned cry, "Give us free," we find the timeless essence of the human spirit.